All right, everybody, the moment has come. We are back with coverage here of the Magic Online Champion Showcase for the grand final. Corey Baumeister, Anurag Das. Anurag Ross, is that your name, or are you still sticking with Anurag Das?
I'm flipping back and forth here, yeah.
Okay.
I'll go with the first one.
Gotcha. Okay, so Anurag Das joining me for the final match here. We have our two players that are going to the World Championship already, so you know these players are just ecstatic about their finish. But hey, there's an additional $4,000 on the line for who wins this match. So you know what? Sure, World Championship, 10,000, maybe 9,000 dollars for these players already is great, and they're going to be happy about it, but I'm always happier if I get an additional $4,000, aren't you, Anurag?
Can't say no to that. That is a pretty sizable winning right there.
Absolutely. So let's check out our last head-to-head from the Magic Online Champion Showcase. We got Yuuki Ichikawa on the right, and we have Ryan Winged Hussar on the right to bring us into this final match. Ryan is the player who has played the most matches out of all of them. Very close with Yuuki, though, here. Just a 1,000 matches or different, 1,000 matches difference here. So not a ton different, but the big difference is the win percentage. Yuuki is maintaining a 61% win percentage versus a 53.7 win percentage from Ryan. Open number 2 winner from Yuuki, as well as Ryan with that Vintage Showcase qualifier. So let's take a look at the decks one last time. Yuuki is already 3-0 in Modern here with this Jeskai Narset deck. Give us a quick lowdown. We did just see this, so a quick one from you, Anurag.
Yeah, so once again, this is a Artifact Synergy deck that has Tamiyo, Emery, and MOCS Opal. Pairs it alongside the absolutely incredible and explosive Corey Steelcutter to create overwhelming boards, and if that's not enough, Jeskai Ascendancy is there as a quick win condition to go infinite with Emery and Mishra's Bauble. Also, you have what is personally now my favorite card in this deck, Narset Jeskai Waymaster, to really just provide incredible value in this archetype. Play all your spells, draw 5 new cards every turn. It has been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have loved this card. It's looked phenomenal all day. And the opponent, let's check out Ryan Waligora. List, who you interviewed not too long ago. Well, Ryan got to the spot not because of his excellent finish with Belcher. We don't know exactly how Ryan did, but that's because Ryan lost round number 1 to Yuuki Ichikawa here on this Jeskai deck. Walk us through Belcher.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit simpler. You're not playing any lands in this deck to facilitate Goblin Charbelcher, which requires you to if you flip a land, you don't deal as much damage for lethal. So the deck is like, hey, well, instead of playing lands, why don't I play these dual face cards that are lands on the backside? And kind of gets around this technicality for Goblin Charbelcher. It also has Lotus Bloom alongside cards like Weir of Invention and Tameshi Reality Architect to really string together some loops and just overall consistency. Outside of that, additional cards to keep track of are the Counterspell suite, so that's Flare of Denial, which leverages the blue creatures, and cards like Sink into Stupor to really just control the stack and bounce problematic permanents.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Ryan Waligora versus Yuuki Ichikawa in our grand finals. Let's head on in and let's crown a champion. All right, starting it off. There we go. Get to see these beautiful players' faces and see the reaction. One of them is going to be ecstatic to pick up an extra $4,000, and the other one will have to just settle at seeing the opponent in the World Championship in Vegas later on. So looks like we have Yuuki starting it off, so we must be deciding from Ryan if we want to keep this hand. How we look in here from Ryan? Looks like a keep in 7 from Yuuki.
Yeah, Ryan's hand is kind of interesting. I mean, you do have the Thunder Trap Trainer to dig into your deck, and you do have the War of Invention as well. The part that scares me ever so slightly is that you really only have 2 lands, and we've seen just how crazy the Jeskai deck can actually be, and in fact, Ryan himself has experienced it, how Yuuki was able to really pilot this deck aggressively. And look, if you miss a land drop on turn 3, oh, this is a mulligan to 6, so that also paints a little bit more of the picture here, you know, you're going to be in trouble. So I guess on 6, there's no doubt I'm keeping this. There's a chance our Thunder Trap Trainer needs to find a land if we don't draw one, so that we can cast Belcher. But that means that we're not actually picking up a Belcher off the Thunder Trap Trainer. So we'll see how it goes. And yeah, this is not a great start here for Ryan, disrupting Shoal to counter the Tamiyo.
Yeah, Yuki's hyped about that. With having a second Tamiyo, you just 2-for-1 yourself naturally already. So feeling very good about that. Now, Yuuki on the other side does also have mana problems of his own. Just in Urza's Saga here, and picked up the Corey Steelcutter to be able to play that if you want, but you're not effectively double spelling that well, so it doesn't look amazing. We don't have a 0-drop. So just Cutter, and honestly, both players really want to draw something nice off the top.
Yep. Flare of Denial it's not too bad. It will be able to leverage the Thunder Trap Trainer that we're about to see put into play. I think the big question here is, Ryan, what are you going to take off of the next creature that you put into play? Both creatures have similar effects. So are you looking for a guaranteed land drop? What happens if you see Belcher? Do you take that over land? I think you are obligated to. It's not great. And then you just have to accept that you will be 1 turn slower for comboing off.
Yep. Nope, I think that's very reasonable. I also got to say, looking at Yuki's, webcam here, number 1, trying a new facial hair look. It looks good, Yuki. I'm a fan. I don't think we've seen that Yuki beard for the time when he's been a pro. And also wearing a Magic Online Champion Showcase, jacket already. Believe it or not, they don't send them out this fast, so that is from a previous MOCS. This is the classic, I've been here before, kid. I'm ready to take you down type vibe.
Yeah, that's actually such a flex, like being able
that
to
is
say,
a flex.
Like, yeah, welcome to my abode. Get comfy. We're going to be here for a while.
Absolutely. All right,
I do like this Flare of Denial that was cast on the Emery. Ryan is kind of picking up here that Yuki's draw is a little clunky. And I think the best thing that you could do in this spot is to shut down the one card that could possibly kind of get you back into the game. Like if Emery mills over Baubles or Opals or things like that, that's kind of a huge kickstart to Yuki's engine. So good job countering that for sure. And I don't even think it's close. It's totally like a snap off. Yeah.
Yep, totally agree. Now, the one thing that Yuki has going on for him next turn is that Saga can float the mana. You can get MOCS Amber and play Tamiyo, repeal your own MOCS Amber, and at least that triggers Corey Steelcutter. That's one of the options. Ideally, Yuki, every other game besides this, when Saga comes off Chapter 3, it's going to get 1 card and 1 card only, and that's going to be the Pithing Needle on the Belcher.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, that's kind of like one of the reasons why you do include it. It's good in a variety of matchups, but in this matchup, it's like, it is kind of like a smoking gun, right? It's just like, all right, TikTok, you have to find an answer. And if you don't, well, now you're going to have to find even more niche answers like Sink into Stupor. And it allows you to really leverage the pressure of the Corey Steelcutter.
And that's what we saw in the first match between these two players. It was like, the needle landed and Ryan spending this resources trying to bounce it. And then Yuki's just like, yeah, but I still have cards in hand, So ended up still being able to win the game pretty handily. And here is the repeal on the MOCS Amber. You get the Monk. MOCS Amber comes back. Worst draw in the deck by far is another Ascendancy or another Narset. So unhappy about that. But, whatever. Not the biggest deal. Get in there for an attack for 3. And then more than likely just play a Tamiyo here. Otherwise, no point in not playing it as you're not using your mana for anything else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about whether or not Jeskai Ascendancy, even if you draw a land, put it into play next turn, you actually don't have an infinite combo kill here yet.
Yeah, the 0-drop to actually go off isn't there. So yeah, Ascendancy, even though you're going to have a non-summoning sick Emery, you're right, it just isn't the win yet.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll also note is that we're in an instance, this whole time I've been saying that, Mishra's Bauble is the kind of key card that you want to leverage with Jeskai Ascendancy, because you can sack it, put it in the graveyard. In this instance, if you have a duplicate copy of MOCS Amber, you can actually use the Legend rule to effectively put one sacrifice some Mox Amber, and then recur it that way. So it's not like we don't have some tools. We do need one or two more, though.
Yeah, even Mox Amber would generate that third mana, but unfortunately it would be blue, blue, red, so we still wouldn't have white. Even Mox Opal wouldn't be enough. Yeah, no way to just win straight out with Ascendancy next turn, but hey, getting on the battlefield would be plenty strong. And there is that Lotus Bloom suspended. I want to say it has 2 suspend counters on it right now, so we still have some time to burn, if I saw that correctly. Does that sound right to you, Anurag?
Yeah, it does here, and that also lets us, pass this turn a little bit comfortably with Sink into Stupor up rather than anything else. I mean, like this War of Invention in our hand may have otherwise gone for Lotus Bloom, but I think in this instance, right, like since we have something ticking down, maybe just like take a turn or two to play it slowly, block if we really, really need to, save for our life total. Otherwise, we're cruising.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just saying we're cruising. Yeah, we're cruising.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do with Whir, when this bloom comes off is you can, of course, just go end step Whir for 4, get the Belcher, and then untap and win the game. We're a few turns off of that for sure. But looks like Ryan Waligora is really putting a big think here to proactively sink something. And, sure.
That's kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about the sink there.
I don't love it either. I think, I don't think Ryan should play anything. I don't think he should have word for Lotus Bloom either, but I think hold up the sink for whatever play would happen. And if you don't have a reason to sink anything, then just so be it. Don't cast anything this turn.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my thought process is here. Ryan probably has analyzed the previous few turns and can tell, okay, if Yuuki had a 0 mana spell, probably would have already played it. If Yuuki has like any artifact, probably also had a window to play it, something like that. Basically, process of elimination can surmise that Yuki's hand is not really that good. So we're balancing the Emery to stop something like maybe
the Corey Steelcutter from the yard. That was the only line available. Yeah.
Right. That one, right? So that's the threat. And then there was a massive punish because Yuuki top decked exactly a 1 mana artifact or like a castable spell that puts another monk into play. So, is what it is sometimes. I mean, Ryan's still at 11, not quite out of it yet.
Yeah, and we'll see. Next turn, we do have the option to bring back a Mox Opal. So depending on the draw, we could piece together 11 damage here. And oh my god, just the other worst draw. There are 3 Narsets and 2 Ascendancies. The last 2 Narsets were the worst draws by far, and Yuuki managed to hit it again.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like like in boxing movies where players are kind of just like they're at the final stage and it's just like, all right, we'll take every single punch as it comes, one after the other. Yuki's like, all right, you know what? I drew a Narset. That's okay. I'm still gonna find a way to win. Kind of, going into that next level of competitive power or whatever it is. I don't know.
No, hey, I'm with you.
I watch too much TV. Yeah.
I'm with you. Yuuki is definitely, not firing on all the cylinders, but that repeal actually might do some nasty stuff here as we sack the Spellbomb. Spellbomb's going to come out. It's not amazing by any means. Now we have the Opal, and we're not going for the repeal. This looks like we are trying to repeal the Bloom. The Bloom must be coming off next turn.
I like that play a lot. Yep.
And if the Bloom is coming off and you go to repeal it during the draw step and Ryan goes Whir for 4, there's a high chance that, the game ends the following turn.
Yeah, I think the only way you'd really win here is by presenting a boatload of lethal damage. There it is, like you called out the repeal, but we're going to see it instantly go to the graveyard, denying a draw as well.
I mean, I think you still were and go for Belcher and say, hey, Yuuki, you gotta have it. You gotta have it. And there's still 2 blockers. 11 life is a lot. The game is over if we can top deck a Bobble. because the Emery loop is there. But if we just top deck something bad, I think Ryan's going to win this game. Oh my God, that's a bad card.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think you could have set up Yuki's deck with like worse draws back to back, Ascendancy into Narset into Tamiyo. I mean, I guess there was the repeal, sure. We're going to ignore that.
It was Ascendancy, Narset, Tamiyo. Technically, the repeal was drawn off the Spellbomb, so all the natural draw steps were horrendous. Now, the one thing that I can see is we can get Corey Steelcutter back, play a Tamiyo. You'd do it in the no, you couldn't do it in the opposite order. You do that, and, you know, is that good? I don't think it's good enough. I think you probably just sack a Clue.
But even that doesn't feel good enough. I mean, the Hydroelectric Specimen has 4 toughness. The Philology Archaeologist has 3. So, you know, that needs to be 18 points of power, of trample power that comes into play.
You can also bring back the Spell Bomb and bounce the 1/4 and play Tamiyo, but I don't even think that's even 11 without any blockers, you know? So I guess you can also Portable Hole from the yard. Either way you slice it, I agree with Yuki. It's not there. You need to draw a card. And obviously now the land's here.
Do we have Moxen that we can bring back? I don't believe so.
No, it's just Portable Hole on a creature, and then play Tamiyo as your second spell, and then Yuki is going to die in Ryan's upkeep.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Ryan's draw did not seem particularly good, but Yuki's deck said, wait a minute, hold my beer. We got this. And yeah, now it's looking like Ryan's going to take down the first game. And in all fairness, this is how the last match went too. Ryan did win game 1. Technically, I think game 1 is where the Charbelcher deck is maybe its most favored
yes.
to win, because you don't have like sideboard Consigned to Memories and you don't have the Orum's Chance coming in. But this is certainly like a roundabout way to get to the win, I will say.
So, who is Creed in this analogy after how this played out? I haven't seen the movies, so you're going to have to fill me in on the boxing references here.
Okay, well, at this point, I kind of feel like Ryan did lose the first one, so he is the underdog. He's also just, as we look into sideboarding here, doesn't really have the best post-board configuration. One question that we were talking about last time, Corey, was the impact of a card like Harbinger of the Seas. And, you know, you and I, we both kind of agreed. We really didn't like it. The great thing about a small field event like this is that you really get to adapt the way you approach a specific matchup or a specific player even. And you can sort of see it. I don't see those Harbingers coming in.
I sure don't either.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. They looked horrendous last time.
Yeah, so we'll see if Ryan's like, hey, I think I learned something here. Let's go. And on the other side, I think Yuki's sideboarding is pretty straightforward, right? We like those consigns. We're going to see the Orum's Chant coming in as well. A couple cards that we don't like the Urza Saga we're boarding out. A couple of the artifacts that don't really do much. Spell Bomb, Shadow Spear, extra copies of Mox Amber, and then, of course, Portable Hole just has like next to no text in this matchup, so that one can also go as well.
Yep, that has to be the worst card that you want to get out of there immediately. Of course, it can clear some blockers or something like that, and that's fine, but yeah, makes a lot of sense. We see Yuki kind of snip tooling this. I think that's more for his own records, just like, hey, this is how I sideboarded. Is this correct? You know, might have some friends, of course, that he wanted to run it by as well, testing teammates. But all right, game number 2.
Yeah, that's kind of an edge that I've never actually really thought about, is to see how I sideboarded. And I guess that's when you've played, you know, over 20,000 matches of Magic, these are the kind of thoughts that you have, the kind of like learning patterns that you have. So, cool.
Yeah, we just click the buttons, bro. Like, hey, let's hit that submit button. We got 60 cards in there. Let's go. What else is there to do, you know?
I learned something today. Yeah.
Tamiyo coming down, and Yuki has a very solid play next turn of Corey Steelcutter into Bobble. Ideal kind of start, plus the Saga to have some longevity after that. And on the flip side, we got some Otters, we got some Archaeologists. We don't have land number 2, though, huh?
No, yeah, I don't see that, Nick. My face is not happy. It's a stinky hand. I am wondering why we kept this. I mean, I guess if we draw exactly a second land, this hand goes from, unplayable to like good plus, not exactly broken, but you unlock 3 tutor options, which is very, very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we have to hit back to back to back mana sources, and we need.
I mean, just hitting one is fine, right? Like you hit one, these archaeologists and trainers are going to find the rest of your land. So we only need to hit one land.
But I really would prefer for these archaeologists and Thundertrap trainers to find like actual, like I want to leverage the selection in my mind rather than use them desperately to find mana sources. It's cool that they could do that. Don't get me wrong. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. So Yuuki, I think there was very much contemplating 2 plays. One, what we're going to see here, Corey Cutter, something else. Or the other play, you had the ability to, just play Urza's Saga, go Mox Opal, Bobble, attack with Tamiyo, and then play Corey Steelcutter. Now, of course, you don't get the Monk off that, but you get to get your hand on the battlefield, and Urza's Saga generates big constructs pretty quickly. So Yuuki decided to go for this line instead, and I think it's totally reasonable.
Yeah, I agree too. I wonder how this factors into the consideration of Harbinger of the Seas as well. I mean, Yuuki did board out a single copy of Urza Saga, probably nodding his head to the Harbinger. I guess if you're playing against Harbinger, playing the Urza Saga earlier rather than later is more important. But this play certainly is a lot more stable because, if you get the Corey Steelcutter into play now, you have the potential for damage, and then should Harbinger come into play after your Corey Steelcutter is already online, your opponent's on the back foot. Like, what are they going to do? Block with the Harbinger to save their life total? I think I agree with the sequencing there.
Agreed. And bang, right up the top there, Jwari Disruption to be able to have land number 2. It's not untapped, but, I don't think Ryan's going to be too picky about which land it was on the top. Any land will do as we get to keep playing Magic. Now, Yuuki does have the ability to flip this Tamiyo if you want. There are certain games when you're just like, no, I don't want to flip it. I want this card advantage. Go into what I love to call, this Tamiyo control deck. And I think this is, it's only drawing 1 card that flips it. Okay, well then you're flipping it for sure. If you don't need to sack the other clue. I forgot about the Bobble. But I love that plan with Tamiyo in a match like this is like, don't flip it. Keep sacking a clue at end step, a clue during your turn. And, you gain the card advantage of finding consigns. Because if you flip this Tamiyo, sure, if you already have spells in your yard, great, you can bring those back. But Yuuki doesn't have those yet. So I actually think maybe Yuuki could have made that play of just say go, sack both clues during Ryan's turn, and have a Tamiyo here. And it might have looked better. That was the other option.
Okay, I'm going to reference that scene from Inception where Tom Hardy pulls out the bazooka and he's just like, you got to dream a little bit bigger. He's playing for the Tamiyo ultimate here, I think. I feel like you have back to back to back whammies, right? You've got next turn Pithing Needle coming off of Urza Saga, and then Tamiyo, like the turn after, might be threatening to ultimate, and also the hand was so bad, like it was just a bunch of lands, right? Like that. I think you just kind of had to Hail Mary there. We've seen this before, even in the other game, where Yuki's had a lot of lands in this matchup in critical moments.
Yeah, now all that being said, Yuuki, it looks great, the play that Yuuki made now, because, well, Tamiyo is looking pretty solid at ultimating. But the flip side that's also looking good for Yuuki is the Saga's about to go on Chapter 3 next turn, and we're going to be able to needle our opponent, get the Pithing Needle down, do a little protection, and you know what? The meantime, you can also just play another land, maybe play another Saga, and get some big old constructs, so you can attack Ryan in 3 different axes. The Tamiyo line, the Needle that has to be dealt with, plus constructs that are just going to kill him. So, still big advantage to Yuuki, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would be shocked. I mean, even if you play something like Harbinger right here, right now, like that's still not the end, right? Because Tamiyo will still be ticking up bit by bit. Oh, this is fascinating. Hovering over Consign to go after the Lotus Bloom suspend trigger.
Yeah, you don't want to get the suspend trigger. You want to get the coming off. So I don't know what this Lotus Bloom is after, but that's not what you want to do, because this just delays it by a turn. It'll come off next turn if that's the case, right?
I think
Because there's two triggers. There's two triggers that work for Lotus Bloom. Number one, the first trigger that goes on is a suspend counter coming off. The second one is the ability to play the spell. I don't know if that's the technical term for or whatever, but the second one is this is about to come off suspend if this trigger resolves. Is that okay? You consign that one because then Lotus Bloom stays in exile forever. So I don't think that's how Yuuki just did that, but I could be wrong.
I agree with you. I think that next turn we'll see the Lotus Bloom tick down again. However, here's my counterpoint. I think this play makes a little bit more sense when you factor in you are about to win next turn off of the Pithing Needle. Well, win in air quotes, and then the turn after you've got Tamiyo. In other words, what I'm trying to say is this consigned to memory is nothing more than a stalling tactic, because once all Yuuki wants to do is untap. So figures, all right, like if you have the Lotus Bloom in play, there's probably more frightening stuff that you can do that my consigned to memory alone will not be able to handle. So why don't I just take a calculated estimate of what I think it might be in your hand or what you could do this turn, stop this Lotus Bloom, limit your options, and then get to untap with my Pithing Needle. That's the best bet that I can come up with.
I'm not arguing the fact that we should, if that was the last suspend counter, that we should consign it. I totally think we should do that, but I would consign it where it stays in exile. So we just don't have that full information of how many counters are left.
Yeah. In that case, I'll give it. I would assume that it's not ready to come off of suspend just yet. It probably has one extra counter.
But if it wasn't ready to come off suspend yet, I would not consign it. That's the thing there. Maybe that suspend counter there is just both of them are called suspend, and we kind of missed the first suspend, and it is in exile. But if it wasn't coming off this turn, I would not look to consign here anyways, because next turn you're still going to have the mana.
Yeah, that'll be very funny if I just gave this really verbose explanation and the actual answer was, oops, didn't see the right trigger.
Yeah, and it comes off next turn and Yuuki goes hands in the air like, oh no, we'll definitely see if that's the case. But regardless, the needle's going to come into play. It's going to lock up a Belcher and still look to be, put Ryan in a really, really difficult spot.
This is kind of interesting to me because we have this Soporific Springs, which can bounce Pithing Needle, and that will also unlock the Goblin Charbelcher, but we're choosing to put it into play tapped instead, which is kind of interesting to me. What is our game plan for this Pithing Needle then, if not the Soporific Springs?
Yes,
or
that's the answer. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. Is I think Ryan's plan, because he's got to think that Chapter 3 on Saga means that it is going to be time for Saga. And the thing that Yuuki doesn't really have an option here is, you can make a construct off the Chapter 3 one, but you're still going to go get Needle. So it's kind of the same as just floating a mana off Saga and then making a construct off the other one. No, I guess this is better because Mox Opal gets turned on and now you just play one more land. Yuuki gets to tick up to 8, make a second construct, and then the shields are down. But man, if Bloom comes off next turn, I will definitely say, hey, mistakes were made with that consign, but we shall see. Right. I don't question Yuuki, so I'm just under the assumption that we just missed exactly where that Bloom is at.
Whoa, I did not expect to see that happen. Okay. That is such a shocking play. I mean, on one hand, I'm like, I cannot believe that, but now that I'm thinking about it, it takes such discipline to say, hey, I am going to give up my game-winning spot here by once you ultimate the Tamiyo, you cannot lose, and you have the Needle in play. So I think most players would have just let the Tamiyo tick up to 8, and here Yuuki is kind of just saying, you know what, I've got Needle. Let's really seal the deal here in this game.
I love it, because now we're still going to make a construct. The win con is already on the table. The 3 constructs is going to make quick work of this. So, we're able to make another construct at end step. They go to 4/4s. Next turn, you make another construct, 5/5, whatever you get, 6/6s. And maybe there's another hateful 1 mana artifact that we can get. I'm not seeing anything too crazy. Maybe you can get a Tormod's Crypt to shut down any Tameshi lines, but we're pretty far away from that anyways. You can get a ham sandwich, and Yuuki is still pretty far ahead.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating because, like, he's drawn land after land after land after land. And even in game 1, it was Narset into Ascendancy, into Tamio, into Narset. Yeah. And it's just like the average quality of Yuki's top deck in this match has been so, like, poor that it really speaks mountains to, like, how good he is as a player to be able to take that and still find ways to make the games, like, challenging and competitive.
And also a hell of a good reason to say, hey, play Urza Saga. I don't care if it messes with you casting your Ascendancy or your Narset sometimes. Because the other times, it does this. It wins the game alone. The first Urza Saga that got Needle and put a piece of threat down was plenty good. But okay, all right, these are cards. And we see Ryan with a big old smile. What can we do here? So 7 mana is needed to be able to do the Belcher thing. So no way we can win this turn as, well, that avenue is shut down. So what can we do outside of this? Is Into the Floodmaw, plus the Cern Scolding, plus the Shoal. Is this doing anything? Or what do we got going on here?
Yeah, I think we're just bottlenecked on mana here. I mean, the craziest thing that you might be able to do is, like, play the Belcher into open mana, hope that Yuki doesn't counter it, and then, you know, you could play Into the Floodmaw afterwards, and if you had another mana source, then you could sneakily sandbag the Into the Floodmaw, you know, that kind of deal thing. Yeah. But Yuki is very talented and will, you know, sniff that out and probably will counter the Belcher. So in this instance, I agree. Ryan just kind of has to pass, hold up the Disrupting Shoal, hold up the Stern Scolding, and hope that that's enough, but it very clearly isn't. So yeah, we'll see what happens here.
All right, here's Jeskai Ascendancy, but, you know, kind of my experience with the deck looks very medium. Doesn't actually do anything here. There's no way that Yuki can present lethal. The only way that Yuki could have presented lethal, it would have involved Thundering Falls surveilling like a spell to the yard and then bringing it back with Tamio. That would have been an option, but decides to not go for that. And now, can it be done? So Into the Floodmaw, you know, cannot be stopped. You can Into the Floodmaw, back the Needle, and that's going to happen. So there, we can be in a Belcher world, but then, you know, how does Ryan play around a consign? And I just don't think it's possible. Like, the thing I would think that would have to happen is you play mana source number 8 and have Flusterstorm for the consign. And I just don't, you know, we're not going to draw 2 cards here. So I think this consign still should be able to clean this up pretty well.
And with Replicate too, like, Disrupting Shoal simply isn't enough, right?
No, yep, exactly. As long as Yuki does replicate it. And now, oh my, is it? Okay, yes, this is exactly what I was thinking. Ryan's out here where he can actually win is if he top decks Tameshi. There's no good answer for Tameshi on the battlefield if you get the Crypt out of there. Sure, you can eat the graveyard, whatever, but Tameshi with Lotus Bloom, you're able to return all your lands. Each land you return represents 2 net mana, essentially, because, well, you're returning the land, and you got to pay 1 to do so, then you get the Bloom back. So your 1 mana investment, you get 3 back, so you net 2. And if you can do that, bounce these 4 lands to your hand, give yourself, you know, for the sake of argument, we'll say infinite mana. What you get to do after that is just start doing the Seagate Restoration thing, and you get to get it going here. So there goes Into the Floodmaw. If Tameshi's on top, I think Ryan has a chance to win.
Ooh.
I don't think Ryan has a chance to win.
I think he was hearing what you said originally, a Flusterstorm plus another card to beat the consign.
Yeah.
And only prepared half of it, but yeah, I mean, this is it, right? Like, all right, hope that the consign's not there, take the shot, and then get ready for game number 3.
Yeah, and now I think no, there's no avenue. I was going to say, if you replicate this for whatever reason, too many times, essentially, tap out. Then you get to Flusterstorm everything, but then you're still a mana short of activating it. And if Yuki just like does this, replicates it twice, that should be enough. He's going to go through all the motions. What could it be?
So here, you remember in the previous game,
Yes.
or match rather, Yuki tapped out, replicating a consign to memory, and then got punished by a 1-2 whammy of Ryan's own consign to stifle the replicate trigger, and then a sink into stupor to bounce the consign back to Yuki's hand, to bounce Yuki's consign back to Yuki's hand. And Yuki had tapped out and couldn't recast the consign that was just given to him. So now I think Yuki has adapted and is learning, all right, how do we want to approach? What can I lose to? This is it, the title is on the line.
Yeah. Both players have definitely adjusted, versus the first time we saw them play. They are now older and wiser, and they have now figured out this match a little bit more. And, that's the thing, is like Belcher's a known quantity. This Corey Steel Cutter deck that Yuki's playing with, not this exact list, but it's becoming a known quantity. It's not there yet, so the fact that, here comes these Harbingers again.
Yeah, I was going to say he's doing it.
Yes. I love that. But the point I'm trying to make is Ryan is not as prepared for this matchup as Yuki is prepared for Belcher.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I also think that like a lot of the options you have in deck building, I don't particularly think the Belcher deck is really ever going to try to play a more controlling role and try to handle the board and things like that. I think it really is kind of like here's my deck, you have your answers, and here are my answers to your answers, and I will try to, just resource my way into a win. And so for that reason, there's like a cap to how well positioned the Belcher deck can actually be in this specific matchup. Whereas on the other side, Yuki's got, the consigns, which are obviously great, the needle, which is another angle of attack. We have the infinite combo of our own, which is another angle of attack, and the Orum's chance too. So it's like there's a lot going on here, and what it boils down to, this is the key thing, is that in the post-board games, I think Yuki Ichikawa is the favorite to win this match and the entire tournament.
So one piece of information here that kind of happened behind the scenes is we had an issue with Ryan's sideboarding after game one, so they had to re-get this match going. And the only difference that we're noticing is their clocks are different. So there is a certain stop time for each player that they will lose the game. For Ryan, it is at 7 minutes and 18 seconds. Ryan will lose. And for Yuki, it is at 5 minutes, 54 seconds. Don't think that's going to be that relevant, but that was something set up by the judges. Maybe there was a game reset or something by Ryan, or, maybe Ryan wasn't able to sideboard, accidentally disconnected, power outage. We don't know exactly, but that is some information that was passed along to keep in mind, y'all.
Okay, and Corey, I'm just holding my breath here very, very, very quietly because, there's the Ursa Saga. It's going to come into play here. Emery is the absolute bait. I think you play the MOCS Emery, that's great. But finally, after on the sixth game possible, I think this Harbinger of the Seas is actually gonna look good here.
My goodness. As we've been saying this whole match, Harbinger looks amazing in this matchup. There's no reason to not want to windmill slam 4 of Harbingers in this matchup. All right, totally kidding. They didn't seem good, but this is a situation that looks awesome. And with the Lotus Bloom coming off, and with the Belcher off the top, Ryan is looking like he's kind of in a commanding position here.
So now I'm kind of wondering though, because we have the basic planes here from Yuki's side, we have Orm's Chant and Consign active. So, the Harbinger got rid of the Urza Saga, which means we do not need to worry about Pithing Needle, which is a big, big, big deal. And it looks like we're also going to not need to worry about cards like Narset or Jeskai Ascendancy, because red is being cut off. That's about all I got, though. So that's the kind of big impact here. And after all of this, stars aligning and everything like that, I kind of wonder if the juice was worth the squeeze.
You know, I mean, it looks good here. Being able to make a construct and then Pithing Needle coming here pretty soon, even if Harbinger was a 3-mana Stone Rain and that's it, it looks amazing here because that Urza Saga to get Needle is gigantic here. Who cares about the constructs? They're fine. But now Emery will still draw those 2 cards. We have Repeal to do a little bit of interacting. You know, you can also just repeal your own MOCS to just do a 0-mana cycle, essentially. You know, the fact that Repeal can kind of be like a better Street Wraith is pretty cool in this deck. But at the end of the day, Yuuki is still drawing 2 cards a turn and still has some interaction here. Does not have pressure, and pressure seems very hard to come by with a Harbinger in play without Corey Steelcutter's any kind of mana like that. And a plains and a pass. Heading over to Ryan. Draw that extra card. Lotus Bloom goes down 1 more.
Force of Negation is a pretty good pickup here.
Mox Opal was also a really good pickup. Now the color problems are all gone. So now Harbinger is truly unplayable, you know, but unplayable in the sense of moving forward, it's unplayable. It already did some good work countering both 2 constructs and that 1 Belcher. So yeah, great stuff.
So now the question is Ryan supposed to play this Goblin Charbelcher out? And I think in every instance so far that I've seen, he has elected to play it significantly more slowly than I would have, but also he's the expert. So in this instance, we'll see. He's not windmill slamming it, so I think he's going through and saying like, what is the list of options, combinations, and sequences of cards that could possibly happen. We'll see what his final conclusion is. It looks like just Thunder Trap Trainer here.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the part, like, we know the perfect information, it wouldn't work, but I'm kind of in the camp that maybe Ryan should have played Belcher just because, like, it doesn't get better. You're drawing 2 cards a turn. If the consign's there, it's going to get countered. If the consign's there later, it's going to get countered then, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I feel like there is a world. Okay, so Flare of Denial is also pretty strong, right?
Yeah,
reasonable. What does the world look like where you can actually stop Consign and Orange Tint? Because you know those are the 2 cards that Yuuki has, right? It's open deck list. We know that on the stack, Yuuki is only battling one of 2 ways. And with that information, there must be some tricks and tools that Ryan can use, kind of like he did earlier with the Consign Stifle plus Sink into Stupor. Like that kind of like niche stuff, right? That's what I would be looking out for if I was in Ryan's side.
Yeah, and if I'm in Ryan's side, what I want to be doing is playing all these little crappy creatures and trying to distract Yuuki with that, because there's no pressure on Yuuki's battlefield. So 3 damage from this Merfolk and this Otter, you know, that's going to add up while you're just gathering cards. Like, you know, it's not a great plan by any means, but I think it's the best we have right now. It's either that or Ryan should have just windmill slammed Goblin Charbelcher that turn. You know, it's correct that he didn't based on what happened. But here's the thing. It wouldn't be correct if, let's say, Ryan top decks another Belcher. So, like, you know, when do you put the pedal to the metal kind of thing is all that it's about when it comes to this Belcher deck up against a deck that has 4 consign.
Yeah, it's funny that you're describing playing out all these tiny creatures because that's basically the best impression of Urza Saga that the Belcher deck can actually do. Like, here's a 2/2, here's a 1/1.
Yeah.
Attack. All right, what you got?
All right, here is a Bauble. We get a Bauble. We get a Mox Opal. You can get a Corey Steelcutter into play. You can have this piece of interaction. You can play that island disguised as a Flooded Strand. And, you know, looking pretty solid. As now you have the red mana. So I'm very curious if Ryan wants to force this. Because if you force this, that shuts off red, but it feels bad if your opponent's just like, doesn't have it, you know?
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, Yuuki must tap out here for this Corey Steelcutter, right?
Well, tap some lands at least, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, this Corey Steelcutter,
but
is there a downside to playing the Steelcutter? Like, I can't really fathom it.
Just being short on mana, you know, like just being short on your sources because, well, I'm not sure.
What would that cost you?
Just having extra mana to interact because maybe that Lotus Bloom's coming off next turn. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like it's close. And then if you go to Orum's Chant in response to the Bloom, and now you get that Flare of Denial, and then you have Consign with Kicker, you know, and your opponent goes, sure, the Bloom's consigned, and then slam Charbelcher. You know, that's a play that could happen for Ryan if that Bloom comes off next turn. And then, you know, Yuki's dead.
Yeah.
The next turn, of course, not this turn, but...
Yeah, that's a very, very, very tough call to make. So yeah, we'll see what happens here if Lotus Bloom, because then you can, the big thing that I think you're locking yourself out of here is like replicating the consigned memory. I think that's like the number one tool, and I honestly think that might be even like your most powerful tool. So I'm sensing a little bit of conflict here, but like also, you know, at the very beginning of the day, one thing that we talked about was the idea of when you're battling against combo, there are two elements that you must have. One is control, but combo decks can beat control by itself. So the second is pressure. And maybe in identifying that, Yuuki says, well, this is the best opportunity I have to deploy my Corey Steelcutter. And it's like you're saying, there's the Orum's Chant for the Lotus Bloom.
Yep.
Are we going to see a combo turn here?
So this has got to be the turn, right? This is just Lotus Bloom coming off Suspend, and, you know, maybe the visual aspect that maybe tripped us up is it just shows Suspend twice like that. You know, so I think Yuuki played it perfect last time. We didn't see the Suspend counter anymore, but here is the Flare of Denial to counter the Orum's Chant, and yeah, Yuuki, I can imagine you'd feel that way. This feels bad. If this... you know, Bloom comes into play, we're in trouble. So now Yuuki has two concerns. Playing this Corey Steelcutter might have actually cost him here, because here's the thing. Yuuki can go repeal on the Bloom when it comes into play during the upkeep. And then, you know, whatever, you can bounce it, you can keep it here. Then if you go to play a Charbelcher and there's just a consign, maybe Ryan top decks a Flare of Denial or something, you know?
Whoa.
Okay. So this is with Replicate. This is on the Bloom coming back. This activates the Corey Steelcutter, but the exact play that I was saying, now Ryan's just like, okie dokie, Goblin Childbelcher, go. You have a couple draw steps to win the game. Or, oh man, Tameshi, there's no Bloom. Heads up play with that consign. If we didn't see that consign there, Tameshi combo would have just ran it away. So this could be Yuki's last turn, or Goblin Charbelcher might grant Ryan Waligora the win here. Emery cannot be a good draw. We have the repeal here. Now, the thing that we have going on is we can repeal Ryan's Charbelcher, but the Force of Negation is going to be a counter to that. So if Yuuki goes for that line, this tournament is over.
Yeah, that's actually just the most incredible thing. I mean,
oh my God.
Yuki's going to be deep in the tank here, probably saying, all right, I play this Emery. What else can I possibly hit? We still need, 5 mana total?
Sorry to interrupt you, but I didn't like this play from Yuuki. What if you flip over Pithing Needle right now? You're going to kick yourself for doing this out of order. Okay, I guess it wouldn't matter too much because the Corey Steelcutter can re-equip, but we did not hit. Now repeal for 4 is an option for this Charbelcher, and you can't wait till Ryan's upkeep or anything because Ryan just responds by activating it. So it looks like we're going to see a repeal on this Charbelcher, and a Force of Negation is going to end Yuki's tournament.
Look at this, and you can sort of see Ryan's reaction. He's like, okay, what do you actually have? I've given you everything. Do you have an answer? It's just a repeal. A little sly smile on his face as I think he's realizing that he might have this locked up here. Repeal going to get countered by Force of Negation, and looks like Belcher's going to take this one away.
Belcher's going to take it away, and Yuki's going to look back on that Corey Steelcutter turn and realize, was this worth it? Could have had a little extra mana available to maybe repeal the Lotus Bloom, you know, maybe do something else. Might not have mattered, but it for sure doesn't matter now as Ryan's untapping with Goblin Charbelcher, and Ryan Waligora is going to be our Magic Online Champion Showcase champion here, Anurag.
Yeah, absolutely incredible work. Battled against Yuuki Ichikawa earlier in the tournament, was kind of beaten badly in games 2 and 3, said, hey, I'm going to change how I'm playing this matchup. When it actually counts for the title, because, he had a one stock to give. And I mean, lessons were learned. That's an incredible turnaround. Congratulations, Ryan Waligora. You did excellently.
Such a huge congrats, and it all came down to the Harbinger that came in. It went in and out of the sideboard, like it was just jumping around, having a dance. And the final match, it didn't do anything, any of the other games. And this match, it won. Just think about that game with a needle in play. There was no answer to a needle in sight, where if that saga went off on chapter 3, that was Yuuki Ichikawa's, match to win there. And instead, Harbinger takes it down, Ryan takes it down, and that was truly, truly some impressive stuff. Sounds like we are going to have you step away, and you're going to do an interview here with Ryan. I guess a second interview. Ryan can't stop winning. Let's check it out.
And with that, we have our Magic Online champion. Congratulations, Ryan Waligora, for defeating Triosk in the finale here with Mono Blue Belcher. You went 3-0 in the Vintage Cube pod with your 5-color powerhouse of a deck, honestly.
Garbage,
and now you're here with the trophy. So first and foremost, I mean, how are you feeling? This is a great accomplishment.
Thank you. After the first one, I was unbelievably pumped, just full of energy, heart pounding after that finish. And then now I'm just kind of tired, but very happy. And thank you so much for the congrats. Definitely still processing the final match. Yuki's a very extremely powerful wizard. So definitely an exciting finale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the players that you've battled against today, they are absolute killers. The season-long grind to get to this point alone is a fantastic resume. So, today's matches, more than anything else, were intense. You're playing against a lot of very powerful players, but you know what? You yourself, you're great. You're up there too. You're one of the legends. So,
thanks, Anu.
Yeah, let's talk about your deck selection for Modern really quickly. Yeah. Talk to me about how you settled on Belcher. I know you are somewhat of a combo enthusiast. Mm-hmm. When we've battled in various formats, is that what drew you to this deck in this format?
You could say that for sure. I was looking a little bit at, I worked with Slacks for this, Jesse Hampton, also very powerful wizard. And we were trying to predict, what people would bring. Corey is the new card on the block. It's taking over, every format. And so the Prowess deck was really like an exciting part of Modern coming into this. Tried it out and was not a huge fan, but also expected, a lot of energy. There was one player that, I was pretty sure was going to play Amulet. So to beat Energy and Amulet, I actually thought Belcher would be a pretty good idea. Shout out to Canister, just, raging and losing to Belcher over and over again in leagues. Are really, I found that inspirational. So the choice kind of made sense. I was a little bit scared of Corey decks, but I actually managed to beat Prowess in the Swiss. But amusingly, I faced Triosk in the Swiss as well and got absolutely destroyed. So
yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. So
sure.
The finals itself was a grudge match, and while you did go 3-0 in Vintage Cube, Modern had a little bit of a different story. So yes. You lost to Triosk in the Swiss, but you came back with a fantastic turnaround in the finals. What changed in between the two matches?
It's funny because I thought Harbinger was going to be. I kind of flip-flopped a couple times where the boarding I wasn't sure exactly how to approach it. But I thought at first Harbinger would be great because Saga's a huge threat. Saga getting Needle is particularly frustrating, not just the constructs. So I wanted to lean on Harbinger, and then in the Swiss, I brought it in. I drew 2 of them, and I didn't see a single Saga, and it looked like Triosk had actually boarded them out, like anticipating that I have 3 Harbinger in my sideboard, right? Which is a cool move. And so I'm not sure if that was actually, what happened, but I reasoned that, I think this might actually not be it, and I probably need to high roll a little bit with a Lotus opener or something like that. And then I just changed my mind, on the fly. So for game three, my reasoning is that now I'm on the play, and I'll just try the harbingers again, and Yuki, of course, on turn two has one land in play, and I'm like, come on, Saga, please. And it's a Saga into Emery, which is just exactly what I wanted to see. So the Harbinger was huge there, and the finale was kind of cool too. Everything basically just had to line up perfectly. Better lucky than good, I guess, is the summary for that final game. Because I don't think I would have done much differently, but definitely, not only needed the flare to counter the orange chant so that my Lotus, would be protected, but that managed to bait out the consign, which I was going to have a lot of trouble beating otherwise. And then even then, I still might not have won because there was, he had exactly repeal for the, exact, X equals 4. And I had the fawn. So, yeah, worked out. It was sweet.
Sounds like you played it perfectly. Excellent job.
Yeah, no regrets.
And congratulations once again, Ryan. We will see you at the World Championship later this year. You are our Magic Online champion. Congrats again.
Thank you so much, Anu. Bye, everybody.
Gotta love it. Absolutely no regrets, of course, when you take down a tournament like that. And, really awesome to kind of hear from him himself about changing those harbingers, bringing them in, bringing them out. I'm sure Ryan's going to watch back and just notice that, Yuki took out one every single time, never changed, and it was all his vibes that got him the victory. Wouldn't you say, Anurag?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those slight nuances when it comes to playing Magic that really does make the game, I don't know, just remarkable to play. Even the smallest choice of one card over the other, the impact can definitely be felt here. And in this situation, the Harbinger taking down the Urza Saga was instrumental in preventing the Pithing Needle. And at the very end, Ryan used every single resource and got exactly there at the last possible turn, and has earned the title of champion. Very well done.
Yeah, so impressive. Big congrats to you, Ryan. Now let's take a look at our final standings to kind of see how everyone did at the tournament here. So here are our records. We have our champions, down there at the bottom, Yuuki Ichikawa, not Matthew Wright, all right, do we want to run this different, Bob? Yeah, that was last year. Okay, so yeah, just go back. We'll run into this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Or do you need to render it at all, Bob? All right. All right, so let's check out the final standings to see how every player did here in this event. So we see our champions there at the bottom, 3-0 in Vintage Cube, 3-0 in Modern for Yuki, and then some of the other records. We didn't see maybe any other players that made it to the final rounds, but we do see Lori there with a 4-1, got pretty close. A couple 3-3s, maybe not the best tournament there for Ruben Luna, but any big surprises here, Anurag, from these players?
Yeah, I think I will say a 3-3 finish, still very powerful, but our two favorites, some of our favorites to win the event, with their decks landing 3-3. Very excited to see Ryan going well at 4-2, and then of course Yuuki Ichikawa, the monster that he is, also finishing 4-2. Very, very strong records overall from some of our top players, and that's what happens when you're at this level. You're playing against people who are your peers. They are as good as you are, and then it just becomes how good can you play Magic on this one day? And Ryan, Yuki both showed today was their day.
Yeah, absolutely impressive stuff. So let's see the thing everyone wanted to know about: who got the cashola, who earned the most money. Walk us through this one, Anurag.
Yeah, so starting from the bottom, $2,000 to Ruben, 4 to Alberto, 5 to Eduardo, Jesse, and Nathan, Lori with 7. Our finalist, Yuuki Ichikawa, earning $9,000, and to round out the $50,000 total prize pool, $13,000 to our champion, Ryan Waligora.
Yeah, and honestly, you can very much boost those top two players up by 4,000. last place at the World Championship, which they're going to be attending. You got that value that you can add to it. Of course, the players are going to be going to the Pro Tour as well, so you get that value. So just incredible finishes. You know, if Ryan's walking away with a cool $18,000 plus the ability to go play in the World Championship, not 100% if it is Ryan's first World Championship. It's not Yuki's first, and Yuki will be heading on back, and we'll be super excited about that as well. So check it out. Big thanks to Daybreak and Magic Online for hosting this fantastic event. You can get more information at mtgo.com/premierplay. But we're going to bring everything back to us. We're going to shout out our MOCS schedule that we're going to be taking a peek at, as well as our newest thing that's going to be coming down here on Magic Online. This is the schedule of the stuff that's going to be coming up. We got Oblivion Sorrow every Tuesday and Thursday. She's given us these educational / news style of content. Go and check her out, 3 p.m. That's 3 p.m. Pacific. Going to be able to see that kind of show. And then meet MTG and Young Dingo kind of playing metagame decks and trying to get everyone to be a better player. You can find all these shows at twitch.tv/Magic Online if you're interested. And let's check out our newest way to play some limited here. This is going to be really exciting. Adarog, have you heard of this Commander Cube experience coming down the pipeline here pretty soon?
No, and I am extremely curious. Corey, can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you start this draft, you get 4 packs instead of 3. You're able to draft, well, it's Commander and Cube jammed together. So you get to draft a Commander. Everybody gets a command tower to kind of help with some fixing. And you get and draft a deck where you are able to play that commander and its identity, as well as, you know, play against other people that are doing the same kind of thing. If you want to learn more information about this, go to mtgo.com. You will see an article coming out May 15th, and that preview league will be May 19th to the 20th. I got to give it a shot. That sounds like an absolute blast. So let's bring it back to the booth one last time as, well, we got nothing left to do besides sign off on this tournament. So I want to give a huge thanks to everyone on the production team, Bob, our producer who makes this happen, Torben, the rest of the Magic Online team, for bringing us such fantastic events, Daybreak and everything they do. Of course, all of you for watching this show. We would be nothing without an audience to be able to show high-level Magic Online gameplay to. You know, this has just been an incredible tournament. We've seen great limited matches. You know, big thanks to Aria for bringing us some high-level Vintage Cube analysis. Big thanks to you, Anurag, for bringing us the analysis here in the modern portion. And yeah, any last thoughts? Anyone you want to call out before we sign off?
We'll say thanks to you, Corey, for making this such an enjoyable experience. And I had a pleasure watching these matches of Modern. Something about the best players playing Magic is always an enlightening experience. I feel like I learned a lot. I hope you, the audience, did as well. And I hope you had a great time. Yeah, it's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So one last time, thanks to everybody involved, and congratulations to our champion, Ryan Waligora. You know, absolutely crushed this event. You're heading to the World Championship. We're all very proud of you and happy for your journey. So, all right, everyone, till next time, we'll see you later.